So what is attitude exactly? And how does it affect your life? Does the world affect your attitude, or does your attitude affect the world? Well, let's see if we can't answer all of those questions with today's featured book. Hi there, and welcome to the Booksters Club, where we find daily inspiration from the books you love. Today's featured book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and today's inspirational thought comes to us on page number 74. It says, "Everybody in the world is seeking happiness, and there is one sure way to find it. That is by controlling your thoughts. Happiness doesn't depend on outward conditions. It depends on inner conditions. It isn't what you have or who you are or where you are or what you're doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It is what you think about. For example, two people may be in the same place doing the same thing. Both have about an equal amount of money and prestige, and yet one may be miserable and the other happy. Why? Because of the different mental attitude. I saw just as many happy faces among the Chinese coolies sweating and toiling in the devastating heat of China for 7 cents a day as I see on Park Avenue." So Dale Carnegie answered the question of whether or not the world affects your attitude or your attitude affects your world by saying, it's based on what's going on inside, not outside, that is going to make you happy or unhappy. So what is attitude exactly? Well, attitude is when you have a settled way of thinking or feeling about something. And if you have a settled way of thinking and feeling, well, then it's going to kind of put a stamp on everything. So Bob Proctor actually put out a video here on YouTube, I'll leave a link in the description, where he talked about what attitude is exactly, and I highly recommend it. He draws out like a little diagram of exactly what takes place in the mind. But to sum it up, information comes into the conscious mind, and that information is neither positive or negative. It just kind of is. And the mind is actually what starts to take that information and put it into the category of positive or negative. And your attitude heavily influences your mind in the way that it processes whether or not something is going to be positive or negative. And so that positive and negative stamp then comes out outwardly as actions, as thoughts, as feelings, as behaviors. So your ability to really take in information and have it be positive or negative is highly affected by your attitude. Having a positive attitude is important to your overall well-being and the perception that you have of life in general. So how exactly would you go about increasing your attitude from being kind of negative to a little bit more positive? So the first thing that you can do to create a more positive attitude is surround yourself with more positive people. If you are around a lot of people who are uplifting and positive, you're going to feel like an outlier for pointing out a lot of negative things. You can change what it is that you watch and use for entertainment. If you're watching, listening to, or reading things that are, kind of negative, it's going to be really challenging to put a bunch of negative stuff into your subconscious and then expect positive things to come out of that subconscious. And your subconscious is really what kind of affects your attitude. Your attitude is something that I think is like on autopilot, right? We don't consciously think, what kind of attitude do I want to have towards this? It's already too late when it comes out of our thoughts, right? We either think of it as positive or negative. But your subconscious is what kind of creates this positive outlook on life. And you can make sure that you're putting positive things into your subconscious so that you have a more positive outlook and attitude on life. Also, you can use awareness to recognize when your attitude isn't where it should be. If you're going throughout the day and you find that a lot of negative things are happening, you can stop and pause and ask yourself, how did I start my day? What did I use to start my day? Did I listen to the news and something negative, or did I listen to something positive? If you did listen to something negative, stop, put something good in, listen to something positive. You could listen to some music that makes you feel really good. That way it can give you a better stamp on the rest of your day. You can also start paying attention to what you're focusing on. So both positive and negative things happen to us throughout the entire day, and your attitude about that is really interesting. You know, when you were driving, do you recall and start telling people about how beautiful the scenery was, or you know, how great everything like traffic was, or you know, what a gorgeous day? Or are you still, like 2 days later, talking to someone about that person that cut you off? Your attitude towards those two experiences are really important, but then your focus on that is what grows and kind of creates this dominating attitude. Are you constantly talking about all of the bad things that happen to you, and do you kind of just like salivate over them and recall them to anyone that will listen? Or are you talking about all of the positive things that have happened? That is really going to start to tip the scales and increase a positive attitude. I hope that you were able to find value in this video and that you were able to increase your attitude to become more positive with these tips. If you had a different take on this part of the book, a different part in that book, or a different book entirely that you think should be featured here on the Booksters Club, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for clicking that like button if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell if you're new, because I post new videos just like this one every single day. See you tomorrow, Booksters. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. So Bob Proctor actually, itchy, why is it so itchy? And of life. What the heck? Things that you can do to make your net, to, how else do you change your attitude? Is important in your day-to-day life. That's like a big hope. A negative attitude, okay, to a more positive attitude. Well, to show, okay, just have one thing that you're grateful for. Okay. And subscribe if you're new. Subscribe, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. Okay. Did that record? Oh my God.